Welcome, everyone. I'm Terry Robinson, Executive Editor at SC Media. As excited as I am about SC Media's celebration of women in security this week, I'm equally excited to be chatting with Sylvia Acevedo, who from 2016 to 2020 was the CEO of the Girl Scouts of the USA, where she was instrumental in introducing a slew of cyber and STEM badges to the Girl Scouts. And I believe some outdoor badges as well. Sylvia, who's on our Women in Security Advisory Committee, started her career at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory on the Voyager 2 team and has held executive roles at Apple, Dell, and Autodesk. So, hi, Sylvia, welcome.
Hey, hi, everybody. It's really great to be here.
Good. So, affiliation with the Girl Scouts has sort of threaded throughout your life. Starting with your own experience as a scout, to a long stint on the board, and then finally as CEO, where you became an advocate for cyber and STEM. Can you tell us how you got involved with the Girl Scouts as a girl, and then the influence and effect that the Scouts had on you, on your personal and career development?
Well, thanks for that question. When I was a young girl, my family moved in the middle of a school year. And as anyone who's done that knows how difficult it is to get a friendship group in the middle of a school year. So I really didn't like school. Luckily for me, a girl followed me home and was really persistent and kept asking me to join this after-school activity with her, which turned out to be the Girl Scouts. And I'm so grateful that she did, because they were doing amazing activities, and I thought, I want to be part of this. And at that moment, I realized that, they cared so much about, my personal safety, but they also cared about showing me all these adventures and skill building that I really enjoyed it. But unfortunately, my family, we didn't have a lot of money and we lived paycheck to paycheck. And a great thing that I learned in Girl Scouts was how to create opportunity. And that's through those ubiquitous cookie programs. So my family couldn't afford Girl Scouts, but I could pay for Girl Scouts by selling cookies. And I wanted to do everything. So I had to sell a lot of cookies. But my troop leader was very good at teaching me that when you wanted to have a goal or have a dream, what you do is you set that goal and that intention, and then you break it up into small, manageable parts. And then you work it. And when you run into trouble, you ask for help. Now, all of us listening to this webinar, we know how to do that. But, when you're living in poverty or near poverty, you don't know anyone who can help you learn that. And I'm grateful that I learned how to create opportunity through Girl Scouts, and then also never take no for in a cookie sale until you've heard no 3 times. That taught
no to cookies. Who says no to Girl Scout cookies, though?
Right. I know. So it's persistence, resilience, and that kind of attitude helped me in my career, my entire life. How do you get to a yes when you're working with somebody? How do you find common ground? That's what that persistence and resilience and that sales technique taught me. Yeah. And I ended up having this amazing career, yes, working as a rocket scientist at NASA, but also working as a tech executive. But luckily, after I had sold a company that I had started, a tech company with 3 other engineers, I had this moment to sort of think about what I would do next. And at that moment, somebody from Stanford University was doing research, and they called me. And they said, do you know you're one of the few male or female Hispanics who have ever gotten a graduate engineering degree from Stanford? And I didn't know that. And as they interviewed me, they kept saying, well, how was it that you were prepared with the science and the engineering? And I realized that it all came back to Girl Scouts, that my love of science started on a camp out looking at the stars. And my troop leader taught me about planets and constellations, and later encouraged me to make a rocket to earn my science badge. So I realized that once I had the confidence that I could do science, that I could do math, that I could get that rocket to leave the desert sand, that I could do that. And so, as you know, any kid who does something and feels good about it likes to get that skill and do it some more. So I liked math and science so much that I ended up being a rocket scientist. Well, when I had that interview with that Stanford researcher, I realized that my Girl Scouts had been my life's inflection point. So I started volunteering, and luckily for me, I met the governor of Texas, Ann Richards. She was very involved in the Girl Scouts, and she introduced me to the national CEO who put my name in to be the board. So I got on the board for 8 years. And then the previous CEO, she left and they asked me to step in as interim. And then they asked me to stay, which I did. I planned on staying. One, I'd only planned on being an interim for a year. I thought at most I'd be there for 3. I ended up being there for 4. And I'm so grateful for that experience. And it was very focused on how do you get girls the 21st century leadership skills that they need and that America needs as well.
Well, I think that's great. And I want to get back to that, but I do want to just circle back real quick because you did tell me a great story about having to make that rocket. And you didn't succeed your first time, did you?
No, you know, you're absolutely right. And I was very grateful for that all-girl environment because imagine, you know, you're an elementary school kid and you're trying to put this rocket together and it fails, not once, not twice, it failed 5 times. But I could have imagined if I had been in a classroom, they would have said, you know, Sylvia, rockets aren't for you. You're a girl, for a variety of things. But in Girl Scouts, it was how do you solve the problem? How do you problem solve? How do you figure out what's not working? And I'm grateful for that because it did take me many times. And finally, on the 6th time, that rocket finally left that desert sand and went up. And that filled me with tremendous confidence that I could do science and math. So that all-girl environment was really helpful to me to have that skill and that confidence that I could do something in a non-traditional space.
So persistence and success from that. That's, you know, that's great. And quite literally rocket science. There you go. So we all know that it's important to introduce cybersecurity and STEM to girls early on and try to keep them engaged going forward. When you first got to the Girl Scouts in a leadership position, how many cybersecurity badges were there?
0. There were 0. And in fact, when I asked what was the badge plan, there were 6 STEM badges planned. This was back in 2016 to be rolled out by 2025.
Oh my goodness.
I remember holding up my iPhone and I said, look, that wasn't even created 9 years. And you know, 2025 is 9 years from now. I said, no, we're moving to the agile style of development, which is a software technology, you know, parallel path. And I said, and we're going to focus on what we do well, and we're going to partner with organizations that do the other parts complementary well. So what we do really well, what Girl Scouts does really well, is they know how girls learn and lead. And so that's what we're going to make sure that the program badges have. But we're going to partner with other partners who can help us with the actual technical or the other aspects of program development. And in that switch, we introduced during my tenure 144 badges, 119 in science and many in outdoors, and also I'm very proud of the civics as well.
That is amazing. How did people feel at first? I mean, did you get some resistance to the idea or the notion of you know, cybersecurity, STEM?
Yes, and you know, the way we got around it is really understanding girls. And I think this is a big gap between baby boomers and even a little bit with millennials. Gen Z, which is that population I was working with of girls,
right,
their entire life is really defined by interaction to mobile devices, right? And you know, a grand majority of them have mobile phones and they have digital lives. They really do think of themselves as having digital lives. Yeah. So from the girls wanted to learn how to be creators, inventors, and designers, not just users. And they also, very importantly, they're the ones that told us, we want to be safer online.
Yeah.
We want to have our digital life protected, which is basically cybersecurity. So with the girls, it was not a hard sell. With older adults, it was, because it was so completely what they thought is non-traditional Girl Scouting. But if you think about it, Girl Scouts has always given girls leading edge technical skills. In fact, some of our first badges were STEM badges, electrician's badge, even a pilot's badge, a carpentry badge. So it was very much within the organizational history and tradition, but now it's so paramount. And I'll tell you, the girls showed their enthusiasm. Our girl activity levels shot up.
Did they? Yeah.
In 2019, more than 1 million STEM badges were earned. More than 1 million. And cybersecurity, 180,000 cybersecurity badges were earned in 2019, and they continue to be earned in thousands of cyber badges a month.
Those are the people we want going forward, right? Let's tap those girls. So we have deficits here in the cybersecurity industry. We're always looking for talent.
Absolutely. And what is great about the way Girl Scout programming is developed is it's not only tapping into a girl's potential and teaching her a skill, she has to apply that skill. So you don't just get the badge by showing mastery of it. Your mastery actually has to be shown to make an impact in the world. What I love is I keep hearing stories, whether from senior centers or grandparents who said, you know, my daughter earned her cyber badge, then she came and taught me and my friends how to put cyber protections on our Wi-Fi, on our personal computers, on our mobile phones. So I love that they immediately took action.
That's great. Well, and that's another population though that needs help with those things, correct? I mean, they don't think about cyber a lot. And whether they're safe online. I mean, their whole lives aren't online, but just enough of it to be dangerous.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things that surprised me so much is once we started rolling out the cyber badges and the girls began implementing them, I will tell you, I heard from senior centers across America, they would say the Girl Scout troop came in and they noticed we had unprotected Wi-Fi. So if you can imagine you're in an active senior living area and you think, oh, great, I can take my personal computer to meet my tax accountant, whatever, in a common area. I'm using the free Wi-Fi. What's the problem? Oh my gosh, all your financial data is available. And they had no idea. They thought by not having a password, it was actually making it easier for their residents, not actually opening them up to cyber theft.
That's great. Well, so there you go. And future security awareness training and pen testers, the whole gamut there.
Yeah, and you know, the traditional way that cyber has been taught to engage the youth is very much from a defense or attack posture, you know, and that has its moment. But for girls really want to make the world a better place, so that if you align the programming in a way that is relevant to their lives and they see the utility of it, then they get really interested. And I actually brought one of the ways we do that, this great bracelet. This is how we teach 5- and 6-year-old girls. This is how Girl Scouts teach 5- and 6-year-old girls how to code, like the very basics of it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you can talk about coding in terms of binary 0, 1.
Right.
A 5- 6-year-old girl is like not interested. But if you start from the perspective of the yellow bead is a 1 and the blue bead is a 0, and then you say the alphabet is here it's expressed in the yellow and blue beads. Now go make a bracelet with your initials, which is SA. Girls do that like that. Within 5 minutes, they immediately ask for a longer string because they want to do their full name. And then in a few more minutes, they ask for an extra long string because they're girls and they want to put all their friends'
all their
names.
friends.
See? I know. And so now they're coding. So it's been done in a way they're interested. They are interested in making the beads and beaded, you know, bracelets and necklaces, but now they're confident because now you say this is a coding skill, you can learn about cyber, and then it moves into competence. So you've got the interest, the confidence, and the competence.
That's just amazing. I mean, because it's so simple, but brilliant, you know, to engage them that way. I'm a mother of a girl, and I can certainly attest to the fact that she would have been all over that.
Yeah, and the other one also, so for example, with brownies, which are a little bit older girls, 7- and 8-year-old, how do you teach them about malware and networks? And again, most of the time they talk about physical networks, and the first level of a 7 protocol stack is a physical network. And at that point, a 7- and 8-year-old brownie, she's bored, she's not paying attention. But instead, focus on what interests a girl. So you get 7 and 8-year-old girls to sit in a circle and talk with one another. And they love to do that. And then you give them a ball of yarn, and then they pass the ball of yarn to one another. And as they do, they have created a physical network. And being 7 and 8-year-old girls, they've made sure that every girl in that circle has talked. So everyone's connected, even though they may not have talked to one another. And then you can show how one girl who has a virus, even if she didn't speak to other girls directly, that virus spread to the entire network. So they get that immediately in a way that's interesting. And then they have confidence because they're like, oh, that virus, that's a malware? Okay. And this is a network? Okay.
That's great. And so confidence goes a long way, right? In keeping them engaged and interested in moving forward. What are some other things that we can do to keep that going? How do girls need to be taught and viewed going forward?
Well, you know, what's so important for the girls is making a difference in the world. So, you know, sometimes people really say, oh, you've got to teach, you know, certain technical skills the way they've always been taught. Well, you know what? One of the great lessons that we learned when I was at Girl Scouts is that, you know, girls, if they learned a technical skill, they wanted to apply it right away if it could help others. And if you can position how that skill that they'll be learning is helping others, that is a great way to keep them engaged. So instead of talking about hacking to attack, you can talk about hacking in terms of defending or keeping an oxygen supply alive, or making sure that our voting system is not hacked, or that our food supply is not disrupted, because now the Internet of Things controls a grand majority of our combines. And I don't know if you've been out on a farm, you know, out on a farm and seen the combines, they're all controlled by the Internet of Things now. They don't even have a steering wheel.
Right.
And if you explain that to girls, they're like, I want to make sure families have food. I want to make sure that the food supply is not interrupted. I want to make sure that the electrical grid is not interrupted. I want to make sure that my family's financial security, that my grandparents don't get robbed, you know, electronically, that somebody steals all their valuable data. All those things they care about. So position the types of ways that you're talking about your solution in a way that helps others. And, you know, that really gets girls going, is they want to make the world a better place and they want to help others.
Well, Sylvia, I want to thank you so very much for joining me here today, but also for all you are doing and have done to help girls, you know, become engaged with cyber and stay there and advance their career, and also help protect our society. I think it's just a wonderful story, and thank you so very much.
Well, thank you, and thank everyone that is at the conference. This is so important. It matters to each one of our lives, our families, our communities, and most certainly to our nation as well.
That's great. And I'd like to invite all of you who are tuning in today to check out some of the other events going on during Women in Security Week here at SC Media. And thank you for tuning in.